success is usually being famous, or having a lot of money, or having a lot of toys. Just make sure you don't do this. Keep your eyes focused on God. Idea, you want to start a business, you want to go into this new job, so business, do go with God, okay? So keep your focus, keep your trust on God, and this time, not yet. The primary reason for today, now we are increasing and it's simply avoid burnout by putting Hey everyone, my name is MERLIN NONGNI and I'm back to you today with the very first episode of videos we're going to be doing. And the mission behind me doing these videos is very simple, which is to transform followers into leaders and leaders into agents of change. And the reason I do that through books is very simple, because most of you, I'm sure, have heard the term leaders are readers. Okay, very simple. So that's the primary reason why I decided to be sharing with you, some of the knowledge and insight I was able to get, within some of these books. And I hope, you'll be able to find some values just the same way I was able to find great values into this book. So I'll see you in a few moments, and we're going to share with you some of the knowledge that I was able to get in some of these books. Okay, see you in a few moments. All right, so this is MERLIN NONGNI. I'm back with the very first book I chose to share with you, some of the knowledge and insight I was able to get within some of these books. And the very first book I chose, which is very actually meaningful to me, is called God is My CEO. God is My CEO. And the book was written back in 2002 by a gentleman called Larry Julian. And the reason I chose this book is because just the title of this book actually caught my attention. Okay, the fact that it says God in my CEO actually means a lot for those who are looking to embark on a journey, on a new career, or on a new profession. You have to, if obviously you're a person of faith, if you believe in God, the idea behind that will be to kind of put God as a foundation to whatever you're doing. Okay, to me, that's what I do, because I have faith and believe in God. Hopefully, I hope you do too. So the idea behind that is very simple, which is to let God be your CEO. And in a corporate world, the CEO is actually the person who rules the company, the person who casts the vision for the company, and the person who gives direction for the company. Okay, is the person who sit down with different directors of the company and look at how every area, every sector of the company is doing, and if there are some improvement to be made, the CEO will actually be the one directing those recommendations. And this book by Larry Julian actually has different principles, and that's the way I'm actually going to share with you some of the values I was able to get from some of these books. Now, the first principle I'm going to cover with you today is principle number 1, which is determining your purpose. Okay, there has to be a purpose behind what you're doing. Okay, so if you decide today to start a business, or to build a school, or to start a charity, there has to be a solid purpose. The purpose shouldn't just be to make money. But don't get me wrong, you may start the venture just because you want to make money. Obviously, you want to become financially independent. Now, the goal shouldn't just be about money, because if you want to be financially independent, that means the focus is simply on you. But still, you don't want the focus to be just about you. You have to try to solve a problem in the society. Okay, so number 1 principle is to determine what your purpose is. Right, some example may be to increase the level of knowledge and leadership within the community, which is what I chose for my for these videos that I'm going to be doing, is to transform followers into leaders and leaders into agents of change. That's the purpose for me doing this. Now, what is your purpose? What's the purpose of you doing what you're doing? Have you thought about it for a moment? Because I know some of you have great ideas. Some of you are thinking of doing something big, or going in your home countries. For those of you who were not born in the US, is to go back in your home country and do something great, start a business, start a charity, or whatever you want to do. Now, what is the purpose behind that? So number one principle is determine what your purpose is going to be, because the moment you do that, God will back you up. The moment your purpose involves changing another person's life, I guarantee you God will back it up, because God wants you to do something that's going to influence someone else. Because the reason we are all on here, I believe, is to play a role in another person's life. Okay, so make sure you determine, you sit down. If you're really thinking of doing something or starting a new business or whatever you want to do, just make sure there is a purpose. And guess what? If you decide to be part of a business that already has a purpose, just make sure you embrace that purpose, you embrace that mission, and make it become yours. And within that company, you try to simply fulfill whatever the goal or the mission of the company is. So principle number one, determine what the purpose is, and make sure every single day you work toward achieving that purpose and fulfilling that promise to your customer or to whoever you're doing it for, okay, or whoever your target market is. Okay, next principle. All right, so principle number two is success means doing something that matters. Again, principle number two is success means doing something that matters. Okay, because I know most of you, or most of us, in the community that I come from, success is usually being famous, or having a lot of money, or having a lot of toys, or having a nice car, a nice house, and stuff like that. To most of us, that is usually the definition of what success is. But still, in this amazing book called God is My CEO, the book simply says success is doing something that matters. So that brings me back to the first principle. If you have a solid purpose for what you do, now you are bound to become successful. Why? Because there is a solid reason for you doing what you're doing. So the way you continuously do what you do and solve a problem specifically within your society, there has to be a room for you to succeed in that area. Now, the moment the things you do is actually significant enough to impact and influence other people's life, eventually you are going to become successful. There's no doubt you are going to become successful. So I'm just going to read a quick passage in this book, which is just a takeaway, right, that the author decided to just highlight, for some of us to be able to understand. It says, when a person humbles himself before God, things change. Number one, priorities, attitude, and relationship. So when you humble yourself before God, things are going to change. Your priorities are going to change. Your attitude is going to change. And your relationship obviously are going to change. Okay, so success, if you are really thinking about starting that new business or becoming part of that firm that already has a mission and a goal, you have to understand that success, your success, it's simply determined by you doing something that matters. Because I know there are a lot of people out there who are looking for get rich quick schemes, and there is no get rich quick. Eventually you're going to be caught up. So just make sure that whatever you do, as long as there's a strong mission, there's a strong purpose for you doing that, you have to understand that over time you're eventually going to succeed, and your success will come from you doing things that matter. Because the more you do that, the more the way the universe will find a way of compensating you. Okay, and the way you get compensated is through different ways. It can be material success, it can be relationship success, it can be family success. So there's going to be a lot of ways you are going to succeed. So principle number two, success means doing something that matters. So just make sure whatever you're doing, make sure it solves a problem within the society. And the more you do that, the more you embrace doing that, the more you find your fulfillment doing that, you are going to succeed, because that would matter to other people, and God will eventually reward you for what you're doing. Okay, so principle number 2 was success means doing something that matters. So now let's jump to principle number 3. All right, so principle number 3 is it takes courage to do what's right. I love this. It takes courage to do what is right, because doing what is not right, it's so easy. Like, all of us can do what is not right. It's so easy. Like, the devil is always out there trying to set up some trap for us to do something that is not right, and it's so easy. And guess what? In our society, in the society we now live in, it actually becomes so common to see what is not right, to the extent where when you try to do something that is right, it's odd to some people. It's unusual, right, to some people to do what is right. So the principle number 3 in this book, I really love this book, is it takes courage to do what is right. Okay, it takes courage. So whatever you're doing, as long as you have a strong purpose, you know, for what you do, right, as long as your success, you understand that your success is determined, is based on you doing what matters to other people, you have to understand that you will have to build a lot of faith. You have to trust God. You have to understand that it will take you a lot of courage, because there are going to be some moment where you are going to wonder, like, why can I just cut corners? Like, I have my friends, I have my neighbors, I have my, you know, business partner that is out there, you know, cutting corners, and, you know, is you know, getting more business than me, and is doing something that is not right, is doing something that is not illegal, and is making money. Like, why am I not, you know, winning, right? You're going to ask yourself those questions. So you have to understand that it would really take a lot of courage for you to do what is right. So you have to keep faith. You have to keep your eyes on God throughout that process. You have to understand that it will take a lot of courage. So you have to be prepared, really, for you to take that. So a quick takeaway in this package, I'm just going to read it for you. It says, the greatest thing you can say about a person is that he has integrity. So during this process where you're going to need a lot of courage, you have to understand that one of the greatest things people will say about you, people will stand up and give a strong testimony about you, and like, I know this guy, he has integrity. He keeps his word. When he says it, he means it, and he sticks to it. Okay, so at the end of every day, when everything goes down, people will be able to stand and say, this guy has integrity, and that's why I'm buying from him, because I know, I trust him. He's been through a lot, but guess what? He has a lot of integrity. Okay, so principle number 3, if you can really take something away from this third principle, is that, you know, make sure you keep your integrity intact. Just make sure you don't deviate. Keep your eyes focused on God, and eventually you are going to have a breakthrough. Okay, so it's going to take a lot of courage, so just make sure you stick to it. Okay, that was principle number 3. Now let's jump into principle number 4. Okay, so principle number 4 is patience provides a long-range perspective. This is getting interesting. So patience provide a long-range perspective. What does that mean? It means, you know, you have a great idea. You know, you want to start a business, you want to go into this new job, this new career, and, you know, this new profession. You are going to develop a lot of patience. You have to, right? You have to develop a lot of patience. Why? Because throughout that moment, because there are going to be some lag times. You know, everything is it's not just going to happen overnight. But guess what? Throughout that moment where you're going to build your patience, it is going to provide a long range perspective. So you're going to be able to see long term. Because guess what? If you start today and eventually everything just happens overnight, guess what? You're not going to be able to stick in that for long. If everything you wanted, guess what? So have you ever thought about if everything we pray for, like, actually happen the next day? Like, if you go to bed today and you're like, God, listen, tomorrow I want to be able to to have this problem solved for my mom. I want to be able to move into this new house. I want to be able to get healthy, and I want to be able to do all these wonderful things. And the next day, out of a sudden, God just solved that for you. God just said, okay, you just asked it and that's it. The next day, within 24 hours. Guess what? The next time, before you ask something to God, you will think twice. It will take you even years for you to ask something to God, because you know that the moment you ask, God is going to fulfill it. So that's why God sometimes will take a lot of time to answer some of your prayers, right? Because the longer it takes, you're going to build patience throughout that process, and it's going to really give you a long-range perspective. Because if it really takes you, you start praying for something today and it takes you a month or 2 months. Now, by the time you get to the end of the second month, your thinking process would have evolved. And the reason why you may have wanted that thing at the beginning was just, just to have quick pleasure, or, just to have, because you were hungry, or because you just wanted to have quick money. But guess what? The longer God took to actually make you think about it was to give you a long-term perspective that you may have thought during this process, like, hey, I just wanted to have, to make some quick money, but what if I end up going to jail? What if I end up going to jail just because I wanted to make some quick money? Now you're going to make you think about your family, your kids, those who love you. You're going to be like, hey, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. Why? Because I have a long range. I'm looking 5-10 years down the line. What would happen to me if I get caught up doing this? Okay, so you will develop a lot of patience, and make sure you stick to it. Make sure you become resilient. Make sure you go through adversity. You are going to face adversity, but just stick through it, and that will give you a long-term perspective. Okay, you'll be able to see further away, and your thinking will evolve, and eventually that will make you makes the project or the idea or the business you're working on to be more fulfilling at the end of the day. Okay, so that was principle number 3. Patience provide a long-range perspective. Okay, so make sure you take advantage of that. Okay, so now let's move to principle number 5. All right, principle number 5 is a really interesting one for those leaders out there, or those who are looking to are aspiring to become leaders, or to want to take a leadership position. Principle number 5 just simply says this. Listen to this. Lead by your action. Okay, so this is a book inspired by God. This is a book that was written to give God a central position in your business, because business do go with God. Like, God is not against business. God is with business. God loves when you do a business that solves a purpose in the community. Now, lead by your action. What does that mean? You shouldn't just lead by your word, by what you say. You should lead by what you do. Now, there's a really interesting passage I'm just going to read here. And it says, many leaders call on God like they call on a consultant to help them with their problems. I love this. So many leaders call on God like they call on a consultant to help them with the problem. So when you think about this, most companies, especially here in the US, have an external or internal consultant, someone they can go to when they have an issue, or just to help them get a quick answer to solve the problems. But hey, guess what? God doesn't work like a consultant. God does not work. Of course, if you need some answers, and if you need to take some time away to meditate and just get your thought together, obviously God is going to give you some answers. But hey, that is not something God is going to do overnight. It's going to take some time for God to actually bring those answers to you. Okay, so integrate your faith in your workplace. Just make sure that whatever you're doing, you have to put God as a foundation first, and then once a problem occurs, then you will not have to rush to God to look for an answer. Because if you just give God 24 hours for him to respond, that's not gonna happen. Just forget about it. You may even close your doors, right? Just because God did not answer. Why? Because from the get-go, God wasn't at the foundation of what he chose to do. So that's why lead by your action. Just make sure in your daily actions there is a divine inspiration behind what you're doing, so that by the time a problem strikes, there is already a way for you to figure out how to solve that problem. Okay, so your action should be able to determine which direction you want your business to go. Okay, so just make sure you lead by your actions, and the people who work with you, the people that are part of your team, just understand that they will copy exactly what you do. Okay, so make sure you lead by your actions. That was principle number 5. Now let's go to principle number 6. Okay, principle number 6 is definitely one of my favorite one. Okay, so pay attention. Principle number 6: when things are out of control, trust God. When things are out of control, trust God. This is so amazing. Why? Because there's a quick takeaway. I'm just going to read it with you before we go into the detail. It says, the author says, does our faith define who we are at work? Or does the business rules define who we are? Does your faith define who you are? Or does the rules of your business define who you are? Who actually governs you? Who's your CEO? This is really interesting. When things are out of control, trust God. Make sure you keep your focus on God. Why? Because as we talk on principle number 1, if there is a strong purpose for you doing what you're doing, if your business is going to solve a specific problem into your society, your community, trust me, God is not going to allow your business to go down. God will find a way to intervene and help you when things go south. Okay, so when things are out of control, just keep your focus on God and keep your faith. Why? Because your faith shouldn't just be determined by who you are in the business or by what rules are in your business. Keep your eyes on God, trust God, and eventually He's going to open some ways for you. He's going to open some doors. He's going to give you some ideas. He's going to expose you. He's going to some new people that you had no idea you were even going to meet. Okay, so there are going to be some way things coming into your life all of a sudden, and eventually you are going to have a breakthrough in your business. Oh, so just make sure that, you know, when things are tough, you know, you keep your trust in your purpose of what you're doing. As long as there is a solid reason for you doing that, trust me, God is not going to let you down. Okay, so keep your focus, keep your trust on God when things are tough, when things are out of control, because you are going to go through some of these moments where all hell will break loose. Okay, but just make sure you keep your focus on God, and He will provide you with the answer, with the solution to what you're trying to do. Okay, so that was principle number 6. When things are out of control, trust God. Now let's go to principle number 7. Principle number 7: between the lesser of two evils, choose God. I love this. Between the lesser of two evils, choose God. Why? Because God has defined success His own way, not your way. And He has provided a plan for you to succeed His way, not your way. And His timing, not yours. This is so amazing. Why? Because God has defined success His way. Why this is so amazing is because most of us, when we start a new project, a new career, a new profession, all of a sudden, you know, we change, you know, we become very successful money-wise. But guess what? All of a sudden, we just think we've made it, right? We move into a different neighborhood, we drive different car, and, you know, things change, okay? But guess what? While you are thinking you have achieved success in that specific area, God is actually ashamed. God is feeling bad. God is asking Himself, what a waste. So I gave you all this inspiration. I gave you all these tools, all this energy, all this manpower for you to be able to solve this particular problem in this world, but you were only interested in making a bunch of money. So choose God. Why? because God's timing is not yours. You may get successful faster, 1, 2, 3 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. But guess what? That is not God's timing. God's timing may be 40 years. Why? Because it may not even be you solving the bigger problem your business was created to solve. It may be your kids. It may be your children's children that may come and solve that problem. So your timing, you may be excited, hey, I was able to break through and started making profit after just 2 years, after just 1 year. But guess what? That may not be God's timing. That may just be yours. And God may be so disappointed by you that, oh my God, you just made money. You just, became profitable after 2 years, and you just want to go around and tell everybody how successful or, smart you are. God is going to be very ashamed by that, okay? So just make sure you follow God's way, because his way is going to be the best way, okay? So just make sure you focus, you keep your eyes on the mission and the purpose of your business, and eventually you are going to embrace God's ways, and your business will go to the next level, or your idea will go to the next level, okay? So that was principle number 7, and now let's move to principle number 8. All right, principle number 8, servant leaders serve their employees. I love this because it has to do with leadership, which is the reason for these videos. Servant leaders serve the employees. Why do I like this principle? It's because most of us have worked in corporations where the CEO or the founder of the company is just I really don't know how to describe it. It's just the almighty. Like he's so powerful, it's so influential. The moment he walks into the building, everyone just runs and hide, because nobody want to look the CEO eye to eye, because he's so powerful. He's so I really don't know how to describe that. Okay, that's the human's way. That's the earth way of being influential. God's way is to serve the employees, is to serve your people. The moment as a CEO, you understand that your job is to make sure that every single person in your team has every single tool and knowledge to do their job well, your business is going to take it it's going to explode. Your business is going to go to the next level. Why? Because the moment you understand that your job number 1 is to make sure every single department, every single person in your team has the tool, the information, and the finances or the fund to do their job well, 100%, you are going to take your business to the next level, or your idea or your family even to the next level. Because the moment they have every single thing they need. So as a CEO, as a leader, you have to understand that serving your employees, serving your team, serving your partners have to be your priority number 1. Guess what? The people in your team, in your company, are going to start looking at you differently. Why? Because you want to make sure they have everything they need to do their job well. And guess what? The moment they do their job well, it's going to make your job way easier. Like sometimes they will feel so pleased by what you're trying to do for them. They will make sure they give it back to you. They will make sure they do even more than what you expect from them. Why? Because you make sure they do well. You don't just wait for them to do something bad and then you start blaming them. No, you make sure they have every single tool they need to become successful. Okay, so this book is actually very great. So just make sure as a leader, you put your focus on serving your team, your employees, your partner. And guess what? Eventually at the end of the day, they will make your job way easier. Okay, so this book is actually giving us some great knowledge and insight here. So just, make sure you integrate or incorporate principle number 8 into every single thing you do on a daily basis. Okay, so that was principle number 8. Servant leaders serve the employees. So now let's jump to principle number 9. Principle number 9 is actually going to be a very interesting one as well. The balance or to balance employees and profits, put people first. This is really interesting, especially for those who are big businesses. To balance employees and profit, put people first. Why? Because in a corporate world, the primary reason for a corporation, the primary goal of a corporation is to make money for the shareholders. Make money for the shareholders. So the moment the company stop making profit, guess what? They will start letting people go. They will start letting people go. But guess what? If your business is built on God's foundation, on God's principle, guess what? The moment the business starts going out of control, the moment you're not able to balance the book the way you actually want to do it, you're going to think twice, because these people that you're going to be letting go have families. They have mortgages. They have bills to pay. Okay? So it's going to be a moment where you have to make big decisions. You have to think. You have to call on God and say, God, really, I need your help here, because I have, the business is not bringing much revenues, and I have, 50, 100 people on my payroll, and what am I going to do? How am I going to take care of these people? But in this book, Larry Gillian said you have to put people first, because that's God's principle. God's created a business not only to solve people's problem, but those who are working with the business have to have their problem solved too. Okay? So to balance employees and profit, just make sure you put people first. Obviously, the business is there to make the money, but hey, put people first, and eventually things are going to clear out and your business will get back on track. Okay? And yes, that was principle number 9. To balance employees and profits, make sure you put people first, because you are going to be rewarded over time by God. God will actually say, hey, I really love what you did here, and I'm going to reward you for doing what you're doing. Okay? The moment you put people first, because people are God's creature. Okay? So the moment you put priority on them rather than your shareholders or your investors, God is going to give you a big reward for doing that. Okay, so that was principle number 9. Let's move to principle number 10, which is the last principle. All right, now we've reached the last principle, which is principle number 10, and it's simply avoid burnout by putting first things first. Avoid burnout by putting first things first. Don't just overwork yourself, otherwise you're going to burn yourself out. Now, I really like the idea that the author has used to really illustrate this last principle, so I'm just going to go through that with you very quick. And it says, take the example of Chick-fil-A, which is now one of the franchises in the United States that specifies in I've been there at least like 1 or twice, and I think Chick-fil-A does like what is it, chicken and mostly chicken, I guess so. Okay, so Chick-fil-A, the 1,000 unit, I think that was back in 2002. They were just 1,000 units, and the author said the fast food chain is never open on Sunday, which is something that I realized as well. And the founder and chairman, which is Stuart Cathy, strongly adheres to his belief in observing a Sabbath, meaning that the founder of Chick-fil-A says, no, on Sundays, I want all my employees to spend time with their families and go to church and every single thing they do. So Chick-fil-A is not open on Sunday. And they have investors. They are making profit. They are opening more locations. Like they have franchisees applying every single day to own a franchise, right? So, which means that the founder of this company decided to close the doors on Sunday. And guess what? He could make, statistically, he could make an additional 20% on Sunday sales. But he says that doesn't matter. He believes there is more to life than work. Listen to this, guys. He encourages employees to spend time with their families. On a Sunday, Chick-fil-A decided, I'm going to close the door. and I'm going to allow all my employees to go home and spend time with their families and lose 20% of their sales. Can you imagine you running a business, having like 3,000, 4,000, like in 2002, they had 1,000 franchises. Like today in 2019, there may be like, you know, I don't know, maybe 12,000 and 15, 20,000 locations in the country. So can you imagine you closing all those locations just to allow people to respect Sunday and just let them go home, spend time with their families and praise God? This is a big deal. This is a big deal. Like this, that's really something who put God as his CEO, as a foundation of what they do. And even though he's running a business, the business is successful, but he still manages to keep God's principle in his business, which is what I like about this guy. Okay, so that was the biggest takeaway from this book. Okay, I'm gonna, you know, put a summary of in here so that you can see, you know, each of the principles, just to kind of, you know, remind yourself of what we discussed during some of these principles we went through. There were 10 of them, very valuable. I hope you guys were able to find some values and understand, you know, from other people's perspective, how you can incorporate God into, you know, the things that you do, and how your goal, your mission, your purpose should be focused on God and should solve specific problem that God wants to solve in this world. And also, there are going to be tough times. There are going to be some challenges. So just make sure you keep your focus on God, because it's going to provide you the way to actually fulfill or solve some of those problems that you have. And also, you know, put people first, which is one of the key elements in every single business, because I personally believe the greatest asset of a business is not the money in the bank, but it is the people on your team, because big businesses have great people. That's just the bottom line. Every single big business you have has great people, because it's not randomly that they became big, okay? Because they have great people working for them. So put people first and avoid burnout. If you can give a day out for people to go and worship God and praise God and pray and do whatever they can, just do it. Just do it, because that solves God's purpose, which is essentially the reason for your business. Okay, so that was, you know, the summary of the very first book for our videos. I hope you like it. If there's any modification you want me to make, let me know in the comment section. I'm going to read them. If there is any improvement, any suggestion, any books you want me to touch on, just drop a comment there. I'm going to read them, and I'm going to, you know, reply and try to get, you know, do my best to bring these summaries in front of you. And if you are watching this video from any other platform, just make sure you go to merlinnongnI.com. That's my website. That's where you can learn more about me. You can also find me on Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, you know, all those platforms. I will be there. Okay, so hit me up, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye now.